Welcome to Vacuum Wars, and to our review of the Roborock Revo robot vacuum. The Revo is a brand new design from Roborock, which has most of the advanced technologies that are on the super high-end Roborocks like the S8 Pro Ultra, but at a much more affordable price. We bought one and put it through all kinds of tests over the past couple weeks, and in this video I'll go over all the results of those tests and list some of the pros and cons of the Revo. So links in the description, and let's get started. As far as the basics, the Roborock Revo comes in two different color options. It's a robot vacuum mop combo, and it's the first Roborock to use two spinning mop pads as opposed to a single vibrating mop pad like on the S7 and S8. The Revo uses the same top-mounted LiDAR system for its mapping and navigation, which is particularly good, as we'll see later. It also has the same basic single brush roll and single side brush system as most Roborocks, and all that to say that in terms of the very basics, the Revo doesn't differ that much from other premium Roborock options. Moving on to features, and there is a lot to say here. In fact, the Roborock Revo scored in the top 5 out of 80 plus robot vacuums that we've tested in the features category. One of the most notable features is its auto-empty dock, which automatically empties the robot's dustbin into an included bag, but it also washes the mop pads, dries the mop pads, and empties and refills the mop tanks with its large 5-liter dirty and clean water tanks. This is compared to only 3.5 liters on the S8 Pro Ultra, by the way. It also has an auto mop pad lifting feature, which is quickly becoming a standard for premium mopping robots. This is a big deal because it means that you no longer have to remove the mop pads when you want to vacuum carpets. So if you have a mix of hard floors and carpets in your home, you can now vacuum and mop it all in one run, making it much more efficient. The pad lifting mechanism worked well in our tests. The mop pads actually lift higher than the S7 and S8, which only lift their pads 5mm, where the Revo lifts its pads 7mm. It also has front-mounted obstacle avoidance sensors called Reactive Tech, which uses structured light to avoid obstacles, but more on that in a minute as well. It has Carpet Boost for additional suction when it senses carpet, and it basically has every app feature you could want. For example, it has all kinds of virtual barriers for keeping it from going places that you don't want it to go. It has room select, zone cleaning, multi-floor mapping, quick mapping, 3D mapping. You can tell it to clean different rooms on different days using different power settings. It's got options for how often you want it to return to the base to wash the pads during a cleaning, or empty the bin, or how long you prefer the pads to dry. It also has a new feature I like where you can set the direction of your hard floors so as to make sure it only mops with the grain. Moving on to performance, where we found it to be really good. It had higher than average airflow, it was better than average with the crevice pickup test, and it was significantly better than average with our carpet deep clean test. As far as debris pickup from the surfaces of hard floors and carpets, it was top-notch. Roborocks are great sweepers, and the Revo was no exception. It really easily picked up everything we threw at it, from fine to extra-large debris on both surface types, though it did get some hair tangles on the main brush when vacuuming hair over 7 inches. In the mopping tests, we looked at both dried-on and wet stains. With dried-on stains, where we did torture tests with both grape juice and coffee stains, it did perfectly, which is good because I think that dried-on stains are what most people want to use a robot mop for. With wet stains, I found it to be fine, but it seemed less useful for wet stains because it can get overloaded easily and cause streaks, but that's the case with pretty much all robot vacuum mops as well. Its obstacle avoidance performance was not that good. Probably to save cost, it only uses the structured light systems and does not include the additional side lasers that the S7 Max V and S8 robots have. And probably as a result of that, it did pretty poorly in our obstacle avoidance tests, getting the lowest score we've seen so far, a 4 out of 12. The glass half full version of this is that it's still better than the similarly priced Roborock Q7, which does not have obstacle avoidance at all. Moving on to navigation, it mapped the floor plan in just 5 minutes with its quick mapping. It was one of the most efficient navigation robots yet, tied with the Q7 for second place out of all the robots of any price we've tested. Its battery efficiency was also good. It got about 1.6 minutes per percentage point. If you run those calculations, it means it could get about 1,500 square feet per charge, which is well above average, but take those numbers with a grain of salt since there are so many variables that can change them. As far as the cons, I've already mentioned the main thing, which is the obstacle avoidance sensors, where the absence of the additional lasers really seem to make it less effective than its more expensive counterparts. Another thing is that because the water tanks have more capacity than previous versions, it makes its auto bin much taller than previous versions as well. In general, though, I'm excited about the Roborock Q Revo. I think it's the perfect mid-level robot vacuum choice, beating out the Roborock Q7, which was my previous pick in this price range. As far as a vacuum and mop, you lose almost nothing from the much more expensive versions and actually gain a few things. The big downside is the less good obstacle avoidance system, but if you have a relatively clutter-free house, this shouldn't be that much of an issue, and either way, I think you'll be very satisfied with this robot. Links in the description, and be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave. Thanks for watching.